In today's video, I'm really excited because we're going to be taking a look back in time almost 19 years at this 17-inch G4 iMac. This is what I think is one of the most interesting Apple products to come out ever. So what's not to be excited about? This iMac was nicknamed the Sunflower. Isn't that like the most cheerful and upbeat thing you've ever heard? Well, I can't wait. So let's go ahead and unbox this thing. Now, just to clarify things, in case you were wondering, this is not a brand new iMac. This one is an original. It's in its original box, and apparently it's in good working condition, but I really don't know. Now, if we take a look at the specs on the box, this thing back in the day was pretty much top of the line. We have a 1 GHz PowerPC G4, 256 megabytes of RAM, 80 gigabyte hard drive, a 17-inch display that was new in 2003, as well as the NVIDIA GeForce 4MX graphics processor with 64 megabytes of video memory. Another thing that we also have here are the Apple Pro speakers. I'm very curious to see if those have survived and are still in here, along with the Apple Pro keyboard and Apple Pro mouse. This thing was basically the fanciest of the bunch. This larger 17-inch version with upgraded internals came out in 2003, and this was a really early one. I can tell because there's a sticker on the side of the box that's dated January 28th, 2003, almost 19 years ago. So this is one of the early ones. Well, how about that? Right inside the top of the box is a note from the eBay seller I bought this from. Hi Luke, we were shocked when we saw you ordered our iMac. We've been watching your channel for a couple of years now and wouldn't have thought you would want to make a video on the G4. Keep up the good work and enjoy. Best, Ethan and Chris. Thanks guys. This is really exciting. I've always wanted to take a look at one of these things, and oh man, we got some really cool box art here on the top. There's even instructions here on the side on how to take the iMac out of the box. Definitely gonna have to remember those, but you can see here we have this large decal of the iconic but somewhat frustrating to use Apple Pro mouse. Let's go ahead and pull this up. Oh, we've got everything. Welcome to Panther. Find out what you can do with Mac OS X and OS X applications. A lot more documentation than you get nowadays. Oh my goodness. Oh, look at that. We got the old-fashioned Apple Care booklet over here at the Pro mouse. Cable is a little bit dirty, but looks like pretty good condition. Here's the Pro keyboard. Oh wow, it's been a long time since I've seen one of these. This is such an interesting fusion between 90s and 2000s. Okay, I gotta lower this height here so I can get a better view. Okay, time to lift the styrofoam and get our first look at the G4 iMac. Oh my gosh, the Pro speakers are here and they're way heavier than I thought they would be. The G4 iMacs that we had in my elementary school growing up, they were obviously the base models, so they didn't come with the Pro speakers. I'm really excited to try these out. These are so much more substantial than I thought they would be. Listen to this. These are not cheap plastic. These are really heavy. I'm gonna have to refer to the instructions here on how to get this out. So I think we lift the display up and then we lift up on here. Here it comes. It's heavier than I thought it would be. Wow, this is in really, really good condition. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's it for the contents of the box. Let's pack all this stuff up and set up the G4 iMac. God, look at it. It's so beautiful. Oh, it's glorious. Let me turn this around and have a look. The fact that I can turn it to this angle is insane. It really is amazing to lay my eyes on the G4 iMac for the first time since probably 2007 or so, something like that. It really is such a beautiful machine, but you might be wondering, Why did they make a computer that looks like this, and why did they stop? Despite what it may seem, this iMac was neither form over function nor function over form. They cohabitate in a genius blend of design and engineering. The wild sunflower styling was born out of a combination of artistic and practical needs. Apple had a list of requirements of features that they and customers both wanted. A flat screen, a G4 processor, and a SuperDrive were at the top of this list. But how exactly do you incorporate those things into the iMac, which up until this point had been running with CRT displays? Without that display, you could arguably just chop the back off of it and stick the computer bits behind the new flat panel.
We could have taken our iMac and taken a hacksaw to it, just chopped off the back. So we're going to put a flat display on the front. Who needs the back? There it is, the new iMac, ladies and gentlemen.
That's not a very crazy idea. It's what every all-in-one does today, including Apple, but in 2002, there were obstacles.
But there are some problems with this. There are some fatal flaws in this approach. With the flat screen in the front, you notice it's not very flat anymore, is it? Because we've glommed the back on with all the rest of the stuff. There's nothing flat about this computer.
But in addition to the aesthetic reasoning, Jobs also had a list of technical limitations that prevented putting the computer on the back of the display. This included ports coming out of the side, because evidently they didn't consider just having them come out of the back. But more importantly for Apple at the time were the drives that they were running, mainly the SuperDrive, which couldn't run at full speed on its side on the back of a display. It needed to be horizontal. And as Steve Jobs had explained, a SuperDrive was a must, so that completely ruled out putting the computer on the back of the display. So what exactly are you to do in this situation? Well, according to Apple, why compromise the computer? Why compromise the flatness of the display and the speed of the drives, the functionality of the computer, when you could let both of them exist simultaneously?
And the big idea was that rather than glom these things all together and ruin them all, a lower performance computer and a flat screen that isn't flat anymore, why don't we let each element be true to itself? If the screen is flat, let it be flat. If the computer wants to be horizontal, let it be horizontal.
And thus was born the most radical design in the computing world. This space-age floating screen attached to a half-spherical base. It truly is a technological tour de force and one of the best designs Apple ever made, in my opinion. They found a way to avoid compromise and change the world of design at the same time. And in doing so, they even introduced a display that was more flexible and adjustable than anything I can think of before or since. This is the definition of form and function working together as one. The G4 iMac was a hit. Despite being born from technical limitations, it overcame the obstacles in probably the best way possible. This was probably the most personable computer ever made. It had its own personality that Apple leveraged perfectly. The front-loading SuperDrive reminded people of a tongue, and Apple was very much aware of this in the TV ads for the iMac. It was sort of like the Pixar lamp, a character as well as a computer, and people loved it. And yet, despite its positive reception and incredible design, this generation iMac lasted less than 2 years before Apple basically hit rewind and undid everything that made this generation so special. And to be honest, I don't think their reasoning behind abandoning this design makes any sense at all.
Our design just continues to leap ahead of anything that's been available in the industry, and we've learned how to do entirely new things. for example, the iPod. So that really begs the question, what would the creators of the iPod do for their next computer? Well, I'd like to be the first to show you the all-new iMac. And that's what the new iMac looks like.
So basically, Phil Schiller said, hey, we're the guys that made the iPod, so here's an iMac that doesn't really look like an iPod, but it's kind of at the same angle, so there you go. And also, ignore everything we said 2 years ago. Like literally, in January 2002, they said, who wants to glom the back onto a panel and make it not flat anymore? And then in August of 2004, they did that exact thing.
You notice it's not very flat anymore, is it? Because we've glommed the back on with all the rest of the stuff. There's nothing flat about this computer.
The entire computer floats in the air on an aluminum foot over your desk. It all fits in there in the world's thinnest computer, desktop computer, less than 2 inches thin.
And to be honest, I don't think it was worth it. iMacs ever since this one can only adjust the tilt of the display. No height, no rotation, certainly no combination of all of the above. And I think honestly, that's a huge loss. The G4 was one of the most innovative takes on a desktop computer the industry has ever seen. Despite losing the fun colors of the G3, it was probably the most playful, fun, and quirky computer Apple has ever made. As for why it had to die so soon, well, I suspect Apple started to see the writing on the wall. Intel processors were right around the corner. Displays larger than 17 inches were becoming quickly accepted, and fitting those things into this design would have required a lot of work, and I'm not sure it would have been possible to maintain this idea with a 24-inch screen and a Core 2 Duo. But at the same time, it's really sad that this generation was so short-lived. It's ironic that Steve Jobs, when introducing this, said that this was the design for the next decade.
It's got superior ergonomics to anything we've ever built, and I would dare say maybe the industry's ever built. And it has a beauty and a grace that is going to last the next decade.
It lasted 19 months. So what are we to make of this? Is this the greatest Apple product ever made, or was this a failure in the long and very successful line of the iMac overall, its shortest-lived generation? Well, maybe it's rose-tinted glasses, but I think that this is one of the best Apple products ever made. And while Apple wasn't able to really capitalize on what made it so great, that's part of the reason why it is. It was a one-hit wonder, something that even Apple couldn't top. And for that reason, I love it. So thank you guys so much for taking a look back in time with me at the iMac G4. I can't believe it's taken me this long to get around to making a video on one of these devices. Let me know in the comments below if you think I'm right, that this is one of the best Apple designs ever made. And if you think I'm wrong, let me know what is. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.